The mystery video sweeping social media. Is that really Elvis Presley? The tall man with white hair, a white beard, and dark sunglasses was seen visiting Elvis's Graceland estate on what would have been the King's 82nd birthday. Some claim he looks just as Elvis would have looked as an elderly man. Yes, the truth is getting out. Elvis is alive.
Just that Elvis wasn't happy, or we argued a lot, things like that, which was not true. And so I wanted to set the record straight, and I waited until my son, who just turned 20 this past August 20th, went off to college.
What if you were told that Elvis Presley didn't die in 1997? What if he's been living under a different name, as a pastor in Arkansas? Sounds wild, right? But there's a growing theory that Pastor Bob Joyce is really the king in disguise. Could it be true? The mysterious connection of Bob Joyce and Elvis Presley. For years, rumors have swirled that Elvis Presley didn't die in 1997, as the world was told, but faked his death and went into hiding. While this conspiracy theory has been floating around for decades, it gained fresh fuel thanks to a man named Bob Joyce, a humble pastor in rural Arkansas. Some die-hard Elvis fans now believe that Joyce is actually the king of rock and roll himself, living under a new identity and preaching the gospel instead of singing rock and roll hits. So what's the deal with Bob Joyce and the Elvis rumors? It all started when Joyce, who runs a small church, began sharing videos of his sermons online. Almost immediately, fans of Elvis, especially those like Tom Mennel, a lifelong Elvis enthusiast, started noticing some striking similarities between the preacher's voice and the famous crooners. Mennel, who's followed Elvis for over 50 years, was convinced. The more he listened, the more he saw it. There was a certain similarity in the way Joyce spoke, the way he moved, and even the way he sang. Could it be that the man in front of the pulpit was, in fact, the same person who had once captivated millions with his electrifying performances? As rumors began to spread, the idea that Bob Joyce might actually be Elvis Presley in disguise took off like wildfire. Some fans took to social media, posting side-by-side videos comparing the two men, analyzing everything from the way Joyce holds the microphone to the slight twang in his voice that echoes Presley's signature drawl. Others pored over old Elvis recordings, looking for telltale signs that Joyce's singing voice matched that of the king. It wasn't just the sound that convinced them, it was the vibe, too. They pointed out that Joyce, like Elvis, has a calm yet powerful presence that draws people in, making them feel connected to something bigger than themselves. What makes this theory even more interesting is that Joyce himself doesn't deny the comparisons. He's aware of the rumors and, in fact, has commented on them in interviews. However, he remains humble and insists he is not Elvis, though he admits his voice and message seem to resonate with people in a way that comforts them, especially those who are still mourning the loss of the king. For some, hearing Joyce preach feels like a kind of spiritual connection to Elvis, almost as if the legendary singer never truly left. While Joyce is focused on spreading a message of faith and hope, the connection to Elvis has brought in a wave of new visitors who see his ministry as a way to feel closer to the king. The idea of Elvis faking his death and going into hiding has long been a popular conspiracy theory among fans. Over the years, people have claimed to spot him in various parts of the world, under different aliases. But the Bob Joyce theory takes this to a new level, suggesting that Elvis didn't just disappear, he reinvented himself and began a new life in the world of faith. For some, it's an explanation that feels right, even if it's hard to believe. Whether through lookalikes, impersonators, or strange coincidences, the idea that Elvis never really left continues to fuel the imagination of fans around the world. For those who still hold on to the belief that the king might one day return, the Bob Joyce mystery is just another piece of the puzzle, another way to feel close to the man who changed music and culture forever. Is Bob Joyce really Elvis Presley in disguise? Maybe, maybe not. But for the fans who believe, it doesn't matter. The spirit of the king is alive, and it's being spread through a small church in Arkansas. The Elvis Presley death hoax, fact or fiction? When Elvis Presley passed away on August 16, 1977, the world was left in shock. The king of rock and roll was just 42 years old, and his sudden death from heart failure devastated millions of fans. While the official reports from doctors and a coroner confirmed his death, a small but vocal group of fans have clung to the belief that Elvis Presley didn't die that day in 1977, and they've spent decades trying to prove it. Over the years, sightings of Elvis have popped up across North America, fueling the fire of this theory. In 1989, a group of dedicated Elvis fans even formed the Elvis Sighting Society to keep track of these supposed encounters. One of the more bizarre claims was that Elvis was spotted in the 1990 movie Home Alone, not as a main character, but as an extra in the background. Could this really be the king himself, living under an assumed identity? For some fans, this sighting was just more proof that Elvis was still very much alive, hiding in plain sight. But it's not just Elvis. He's not the only star whose death has been questioned. Other icons, like actor James Dean and pop legend Michael Jackson, have also been the subject of similar conspiracy theories. Fans of these stars still hold out hope that their idols didn't really die, but instead disappeared from public life, still alive and living secretly somewhere. One of the most popular theories about Elvis's disappearance centers on his supposed involvement with the mafia. According to author Gail Brewer Giorgio, who wrote the book Is Elvis Alive? 1988, Presley may have been recruited by the FBI in 1976 to go undercover and infiltrate a criminal organization called the Fraternity, a mafia-like group involved in various illegal activities. Brewer Giorgio claims that Elvis agreed to help the FBI out of a love for his country and respect for law enforcement. But when the mafia group discovered that Elvis was working as a mole, Brewer Giorgio speculates that the singer was placed into witness protection to keep him safe from the criminal organization. While this idea might sound like the plot of a Hollywood thriller, experts argue that the medical evidence and eyewitness reports all point to the conclusion that Elvis did, in fact, pass away in 1977. In an interview with Time, one expert named Lacey explained that for Elvis to have faked his death would have required the cooperation of hundreds, if not thousands of people, including doctors, family members, and countless others involved in the funeral and medical processes. The idea that this could have been pulled off without a hitch seems, to most, highly unlikely. Still, theories keep popping up, and conspiracy theorists have their own evidence to back their claims. One of the most talked about pieces of proof is Elvis's tombstone. According to believers, there's a mysterious mistake where his middle name is spelt Aaron instead of Aaron, and they think this was done on purpose. The theory is that by using the alternate spelling of his middle name, Elvis was trying to send a message or hide his true identity. But debunkers point out that Elvis actually began spelling his middle name Aaron later in life. There's also the issue of Elvis's family members. Over the years, skeptics have pointed to odd remarks made by Priscilla Presley and Lisa Marie Presley as potential slips that suggest they know Elvis is still alive. For example, during a 2005 interview on The Oprah Winfrey Show, Priscilla Presley supposedly made an accidental comment saying, "It's exactly what he said the other day," referring to Elvis, before quickly correcting herself. Fans who believe in the conspiracy theorize that this was a mistake, implying that Elvis was still in contact with his family. Similarly, in a 2003 interview on Larry King Live, Lisa Marie Presley was asked if she ever felt any communication with her father, and some fans believe her evading the question was evidence that she knew more than she was letting on. Sightings and family statements might make for a compelling story, but they don't provide concrete proof. And while conspiracy theorists continue to search for clues, the overwhelming evidence points to the fact that Elvis Presley really did die in 1977. But for some fans, the mystery remains unsolved, and the idea that Elvis faked his death provides a comforting way to keep the king alive. Whether it's the mafia angle, the sightings, or the strange family interviews, Bob Joyce's faith parallel to Elvis Presley's spirituality, Bob Joyce's life and ministry are centered around one core belief: faith has the power to heal. As a pastor in Central Arkansas, Joyce has built his life on helping others connect with God, offering comfort to those in pain, and guiding people toward spiritual healing. What's interesting, though, is that some people think Joyce's voice, deep, soulful, and strikingly similar to Elvis Presley's, may be part of God's plan. Could it be that God is using Joyce's voice to reach people in ways beyond the ordinary? Joyce himself believes that his unique gift is a way to minister to others, especially those with broken hearts. He suggests that God may have given him this voice for a reason. Though Joyce has always maintained that he is not Elvis in disguise, the resemblance between the two men's voices has led some of Elvis's most devoted fans to wonder, is this a coincidence, or is there something deeper at play? This idea of using one's gifts to connect with others on a spiritual level isn't new. It actually mirrors Elvis Presley's own journey of faith, especially in the later years of his life. While the king of rock and roll is best known for his music, his fame, and his larger-than-life persona, Elvis was also deeply interested in spirituality, and it was a big part of his life, especially as he got older. Like Bob Joyce, Elvis found a sense of purpose in using his platform to connect with others, and during the final years of his life, he actively sought spiritual guidance, exploring different religious beliefs, including Christianity. There's a fascinating connection between the two men. Both Elvis and Bob Joyce, in their own unique ways, felt a strong calling to reach people emotionally and spiritually. Elvis did it through his music, pouring his heart into the songs he sang and the way he performed. His voice was legendary, able to move people to tears or make them jump to their feet in excitement. Elvis's music wasn't just entertainment, it was a form of communication, a way to share his emotions, and for many fans, it was also a way to connect with something larger than themselves. In his later years, as Elvis became more spiritually focused, he even said that his music was a way to spread love and light, and that he felt his performances were a way to help others heal. Bob Joyce connects with people through his preaching, using his voice and messages of faith to offer comfort to those in need. Though their paths were very different, one through rock and roll, the other through faith, the underlying mission is strikingly similar. Both men found a way to touch the hearts of others, whether through Elvis's electrifying performances or Bob Joyce's soothing words. The key thing here is emotional connection. Whether it was through Elvis's ballads about love, loss, and longing, or through Bob Joyce's sermons about redemption and faith, both men tapped into deep, universal emotions that speak to the human condition. But it's not just their methods that draw a parallel. Both men experienced their own spiritual journeys. Elvis's search for meaning was part of his evolution as a person. Early in his career, he was known for his rebellious rock and roll lifestyle. However, as he grew older, Elvis became increasingly interested in spiritual matters. His search for deeper meaning led him to explore various religious paths, including Christianity, which he embraced more fully in his later years. During this period, Elvis often spoke about wanting to be a better person and help others through his faith. He even tried to live out his beliefs by showing kindness to fans and seeking peace in his personal life. Similarly, Bob Joyce's own spiritual journey is marked by a strong sense of devotion and a desire to help others. While Joyce has never publicly claimed any connection to Elvis, his message of healing and faith resonates with the same kind of spiritual seeking that Elvis experienced. It's not about who they were, but about what they did. Both Elvis and Bob Joyce have shared a deep desire to make the world a better place by connecting with people emotionally, spiritually, and personally. Elvis's music reached millions of fans and touched their hearts, while Bob Joyce's messages offer comfort and healing to those in pain. Despite the similarities in their spiritual journeys, Joyce continues to maintain that he is not Elvis in disguise, and that's where the distinction lies. Bob Joyce is his own person, living out his calling as a pastor, not trying to imitate anyone. especially not a global icon like Elvis Presley. However, the comparison remains because of the shared sense of mission between the two men. Whether it's through the power of music or the healing words of faith, both have left an indelible mark on the hearts of those who have heard their message. Bob Joyce's denial and public image. Pastor Bob Joyce himself has firmly denied these claims. Despite the growing rumors, Joyce has repeatedly stated that he is not Elvis Presley. In fact, he seems almost bemused by the idea. Joyce has gone on record to say that, although many people are convinced he is Elvis, they also know in their hearts that he is not. Joyce's message is clear. It's about healing, hope, and faith, not about celebrity status. He believes that perhaps his voice, which bears a striking resemblance to Elvis's, might be a tool that God is using to minister to those with broken hearts. Many people who attend his church or listen to his sermons say they feel a deep sense of comfort and peace when they hear Joyce. He often reflects on what he would say to Elvis Presley if he were still alive. In interviews, Joyce has described a sense of spiritual kinship with the late singer, saying that he would consider Elvis to be a friend and brother. Joyce believes that in many ways, their faith in Christ connects them, even if they traveled down very different paths in life. Joyce sees their shared faith as a unifying force, which transcends the details of their lives or the theories about their identities. But while Pastor Joyce distances himself from the idea of being Elvis, the rumors won't go away. The more time passes, the more the theory picks up steam. Some fans point to the similarities in the way Joyce speaks, how he phrases certain words, and his unique vocal tone, all of which are strikingly similar to Elvis's famous voice. They even note that Joyce's mannerisms, his gestures, the way he moves, and even his posture, remind them of the king in his prime. For these fans, it's not just a coincidence. To them, the physical and vocal similarities are proof that Elvis didn't die that fateful day in 1977, but instead disappeared from the public eye and started a new life as a pastor. As crazy as it might sound, this theory isn't just limited to a handful of fans. It has sparked discussions, created fan groups, and even led to the creation of websites dedicated to exploring the possibility that Bob Joyce is, in fact, Elvis. Some go as far as analyzing old footage of Elvis, comparing it side by side with videos of Joyce preaching, trying to find more clues, and the more they dig. But even with all the growing speculation, he's not in the business of satisfying conspiracy theories. His mission is to reach people spiritually, to help them find comfort and strength through faith. In his eyes, that's the only role that matters. Even if Joyce isn't actually Elvis, the fact that his voice and message bring so much peace to people is enough for them to continue clinging to the idea. Joyce has openly stated that he understands why people might want to believe this theory. He knows the power Elvis holds in the hearts of fans. But he also reiterates that, while he appreciates the connection his voice creates, he's not Elvis Presley. In fact, he's grateful that people can find solace in his ministry, whether or not they believe he's the king. At the end of the day, it's the message of hope and healing that he wants to emphasize. The rumors surrounding Pastor Bob Joyce and the theory that he might secretly be Elvis Presley show no sign of disappearing anytime soon. While Joyce continues to clarify that he is not the king in disguise, the deep, emotional connections people feel toward him and his striking resemblance to Elvis keep the theory alive. Whether or not Bob Joyce is really Elvis Presley doesn't change the fact that his message resonates deeply with many people, offering them comfort and peace in a way that feels almost divine. Is he Elvis? Probably not. But for the people who believe, it doesn't really matter. Joyce's voice, his message, and his ministry continue to touch lives, and for some, that's all that matters. So what do you think? Could Pastor Bob Joyce really be Elvis in disguise? Or is this just another crazy conspiracy theory? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Until next time.